Thanks to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. Before we get into today's topic, I just want to let you know about this fun new mystery game that you can download on your smart device called June's Journey. June's Journey is a free to download mystery game where you have to find objects hidden in beautiful, colorful, and carefully crafted scenes. You guys, I love playing this 1920s styled murder mystery game as it makes me feel like I'm in my very own mystery movie. It sets the main protagonist, June Parker, in a quest to solve the murder of her sister. Honestly, the story is so good. I could literally make one of my videos about this. I've been playing this now for a while, and I just love that you can sit back, relax, and play whenever you want. It's lightly challenging, but in a way that still allows you to stay relaxed while playing. I've been playing it just before I go to bed at night because it really helps me unwind. And if you want to play it, you can. Just click the link in my description to download. When I was in middle school, my best friend Megan had a birthday coming up. It was the end of September, but it was still really hot outside. Her parents were divorced and she lived with her mom, but would go and stay with her dad every weekend. Her dad was a surgeon, so he was pretty wealthy. He lived in a large home on the other side of town and had a big yard complete with an outdoor swimming pool. She asked her dad if she could throw a birthday pool party there with a handful of other girls, and he agreed. We were super excited and talked about the party for weeks ahead of time. One day, about a week before the party was scheduled, I was sitting on the floor with Megan in her room. We were going over the guest list for the party. She was reading off names, and they were all girls I was also friends with. But then she came to the name Karen. Karen was new in school that year and sat next to Megan in class. The two seemed to be hitting it off, but I had a feeling Karen didn't really like me. Whenever we would be hanging out at recess or lunch, Karen would talk to everybody but me. Sometimes she would even make fun of me if she saw that I got a bad grade on a test or performed badly in gym class. I began to think she was jealous of my relationship with Megan. After all, everyone knew the two of us had been best friends since kindergarten. I could tell Megan noticed my expression change when she read Karen's name off the list. She knew how cold Karen had been to me, but she was still hoping we would eventually hit it off. She quickly tried to convince me of her reasoning for inviting her. Come on, she told me, she's new and barely has any friends yet. I would feel bad not inviting her. She then went on to say that if she didn't invite Karen, the subject of the party was bound to come up at school at some point, and it would be really awkward. I definitely wasn't excited about Karen coming, but I could see where Megan was coming from. She was just trying to be a nice person. We had only known Karen for a couple of months, and it had to be hard to change schools and not know anyone. I would just have to put how I felt about Karen aside. It was Megan's birthday anyway, not mine. On the day of the party, I arrived at Megan's dad's house early to help her get set up. Her dad's cook had prepared a massive spread of food for the party. Definitely more food than a group of middle school girls could consume. There were hamburgers, hot dogs, potato salad, fruit, and kebabs, and a fabulous-looking birthday cake with pink flowers on it. I helped Megan blow up balloons and hang streamers and make everything more festive. There were even tons of pool toys and giant floaties in the water that I knew would be fun to take pictures with. By the time Megan and I were all done setting up, the area looked great, and we were both so excited. We changed into our bathing suits just before 1 p.m., which was when the guests were supposed to arrive. Parents began showing up to drop off the girls, and before long, the backyard was filled with people. We started off the party by having lunch and hanging out in the pool. Everyone was having a great time, riding around on the floaties, playing water games, and jumping off the diving board. There were lots of girls I was friends with there, and I almost forgot that Karen was even there. After hanging out in the pool for a while, we decided to go inside the house to cut the cake and open presents. People really went all out and were super generous in regards to what they gifted Megan. I was so happy watching how excited she got after every present she opened. When she got to the present I had gotten for her, she tore open the package and screamed out with glee when she saw what it was. It was her favorite book, autographed by the author. My dad had some connections and was able to pull a few strings to get it. Megan jumped up off her chair and ran across the room to hug me and was thanking me over and over again. As she walked back to her seat, I just so happened to catch a glimpse of Karen's expression. Unlike everyone else in the room, she was not smiling. Karen's present was next. It was a thin bracelet made of real gold. Everyone in the room was oohing and awing over it, and I could tell Karen was pleased with herself. It seemed strange to get a present that nice for someone you didn't know very long, but I brushed it off. Next, we sang happy birthday to Megan and cut the cake. I had just gotten my slice when I brushed a piece of hair behind my ear, realized that one of my earrings was missing. It was a special pair of emerald earrings that my grandmother gave me, and they were really special. I had completely forgotten to take them out before getting in the pool. I excused myself from the group and went back outside to look for the earring. I walked all around the pool area and didn't see anything, so I eventually decided to go back in the water. After swimming around for a bit, I finally noticed something sparkly laying at the very deepest end of the pool. I was sure it was my earring. I took a deep breath and went underwater, swimming towards the earring as quickly as I could. I forced my eyes open and the chlorine caused them to burn, but I kept swimming. I finally grasped the earring and popped up above water again. The first thing I saw when my head came out of the water was Karen at the other end of the pool. She was by herself and messing with one of the buttons along the deck. All of a sudden, I watched as the automatic pool cover began pulling out over the surface of the water. I cried out, but Karen only smiled at me creepily. I tried to get out of the pool, but I wasn't fast enough. The cover quickly went over my head, trapping me underneath. There was a small gap between the cover and the surface of the water so I could breathe, but just barely. I began screaming for help, but no one came. I knew they were still inside. It felt like hours, but was really only probably 5 to 10 minutes before someone realized I wasn't coming back inside. I heard Megan calling my name. I screamed out to her that I was trapped under the pool cover. The next thing I heard was Megan calling for her dad and a lot of shouting. Finally, the pool cover was removed and Megan and a few of my friends helped me out of the pool. I was breathless from screaming, so it took me a few minutes to get any words out. The first thing I said was, "It was Karen." Everyone turned to look at Karen, who was still smirking. She didn't deny anything. After that, Megan told Karen she had to leave. Her mom came and picked her up a short while later. She didn't even seem sorry that she had essentially ruined Megan's party. After that, none of us talked to Karen anymore. Luckily, she transferred schools halfway through the year. One summer during high school, I was invited to a pool party that was being hosted by one of the most popular kids in school, a girl named Haley. I hadn't gone to many parties before, and I was super excited that I was invited. A couple of my other close friends would be there too, so I didn't feel too nervous about going. I knew I would have people to talk to. But I did have a little secret that I hadn't told anyone, not even my closest friends. It was that I couldn't swim. I knew that being in high school and still not knowing how to swim sounds weird, but there was a good reason for it. When I was a very little girl, I accidentally fell into the lake while I was at my grandparents' house, and I nearly died. Ever since then, I had been too scared to learn how to swim. I would still go to the pool every once in a while, but would only stay in the shallow end where I could stand. I never jumped into the pool and definitely never went anywhere near the deep end. I was hoping that Haley's pool would have a shallow end. If not, I would just make some excuse for why I wasn't getting in the water. On the evening of the pool party, I lied to my parents and told them I would be spending the night at my best friend's house. I did this because they only allowed me to stay at the houses of kids if they had met their parents before. They had definitely never met Haley's parents, but they definitely knew of them. Haley's parents were known for having a lot of money and throwing crazy, lavish parties. It definitely wasn't the kind of environment they would want me around. I felt a little bad about lying, but I knew this was something I didn't want to miss out on. I got dressed in my favorite bikini and put my clothes on top so that they wouldn't suspect anything. I packed an overnight bag to further convince them and then waved goodbye as I headed out to my car. When I showed up to the house, I was in awe of how massive it was. It was basically a mansion. After parking my car, I got out and anxiously made my way to the front door, which was propped open. I timidly made my way inside and saw a few guys from school sitting on a large couch watching a football game. There were a few other people grabbing snacks from the massive kitchen. I was taking everything in when Haley popped out of nowhere and greeted me, a big smile on her face. She welcomed me and told me most people were in the backyard at the pool. She showed me where the bathrooms were and told me I could help myself to any of the snacks in the kitchen. She was about to walk away when all of a sudden she turned back around and said, "Oh, I almost forgot. All the alcohol is in the outdoor bar by the pool. Have whatever you would like." I was shocked, and I asked her if her parents were home. She told me they were, but they weren't like other parents and they didn't care if people drank as long as they didn't drive after. She then turned on her heel and headed back out to the pool. I was surprised. I had never had a sip of alcohol before, or even been at a party where one was served. I slowly began making my way out to the pool area and was relieved to see two of my close friends sitting in lawn chairs alongside the pool. They were each holding a pink drink. We chatted for a while before they asked me if I was going to get a drink. I explained to them that I didn't know what any kinds of alcohol were or even how to make a drink. They told me that they could help me and would make a drink that was so good I wouldn't even be able to taste the alcohol. We walked over to the bar area where there were bottles of alcohol. There was everything from wine and beer to lots of different liqueurs. I watched as one of my friends grabbed a red plastic cup and then picked up a bottle of vodka. She poured some of it into the cup and then added ice and filled the cup the rest of the way with pink lemonade and orange juice. She then stirred it up and gave it to me to try. Just like she had said, it was delicious. We went back to our seats and were chatting for a while longer before I began to feel a nice buzz. We were talking about boys, and one of my friends pointed out that my crush Eric was swimming in the pool close by. They ended up calling him over and excused themselves just as he sat down, leaving us alone together. I don't know what got into me, but I felt extra confident as I flirted with him, and I was pretty sure he was flirting back. Eventually, he asked me to jump in the pool with him. I told him I didn't want to get my hair wet, so I only wanted to go in the shallow end. He nodded, and we began walking over together in that direction. The next thing I felt was a rough shove, sending me falling into the deep side of the pool. It was 6 feet deep, and I was only 5 feet tall. Immediately, I began struggling. I couldn't get my bearings, and I couldn't see anything to hold on to. I began to panic, water burning into my nose. Finally, I felt someone grab onto my waist and pull me out of the pool. I was grasping for air as Eric stood over me, apologizing and asking if I was okay. He looked very concerned. I gathered up my things and asked one of my friends who hadn't been drinking if I could spend the night at her house. She agreed and we left immediately. I never talked to Eric again after that incident. I know he hadn't known I couldn't swim and I had just been playing around, but I was too embarrassed to ever face him again. One hot 4th of July, I was at a family pool party at my grandparents' house. We were having barbecue, watermelon, and all your typical summer holiday food. Every member of my family was there, including all my aunts and uncles and my many cousins, all of whom were different ages. I was in high school at the time and was hanging out with my other teenage cousins while the adults did the cooking. There were probably as many as 30 people at the party that day. Everyone was milling about, eating, swimming, laughing. There was a lot of noise and excitement. My cousins and I were filming TikTok videos while playing basketball in the pool. My male cousins were all doing trick shots and trying to outdo one another while the girls were filming them. We had been doing this for around an hour before I heard my grandma call from the patio that the food was ready and we could come and get ourselves a plate. I was extra hungry, so I decided to go eat right then, but the rest of my cousins stayed in the pool to continue making TikToks. I pulled myself out of the pool and began making my way to the line where the food was being served. I grabbed a plate and began loading it up when all of a sudden I heard one of my aunts cry out in an anxious voice that she couldn't find Julie. Julie is my 3-year-old cousin. Immediately, a hush went over the party and everyone began to frantically look for her. Someone suggested that maybe she had wandered into the house, so a few people went back into the house to look while everyone else was glancing around the backyard and the pool area for her. It was a large yard that was not fenced in, and she could be anywhere. Then, much to my horror, I saw something pink floating at the deep end of the pool. I didn't think, I just screamed her name at the top of my lungs as I sprinted to the pool and dove in. As I got closer, I could tell for sure that it was Julie. Her blonde hair was glistening as she floated face down in the water. I grabbed her by her wrists and began tugging her towards the side of the pool. Luckily, the rest of my family had heard my screams and several of my uncles had also dove into the pool to help me. They got her out, laid her down on the side of the pool. All I remember after that was complete chaos. Julie's mom was screaming and everyone was shouting out directions. My mom was on the phone with 911 and my uncle was doing CPR. The ambulance arrived and took her away to the hospital where she was put on life support. Miraculously, the doctors were able to save her. They claimed that had she been underwater without oxygen even a few seconds more, she would have been brain dead. After many months in the hospital and rehabilitation, she eventually made a full recovery. Sleep tight.